Today on Science Fiction and Fantasy Network, I'm talking to Gemma Moody. She's an artist for comic books and paintings and various other graphic designs. Could you tell us a little bit about the comic book that you're involved in drawing?
Currently I'm working on two major projects, Gamer Girl and Vixen and Cornah. I also do work for a webcomic called Darkwynd Chronicles, which is updating frequently.
What's the website for that one?
Darkwynd Chronicles, but the poster I sell has a QR code because it's quite tricky.
We'll put a link in the description as well. So tell us, what's the first comic about, the Gamer Girl about?
Gamer Girl and Vixen is an LGBT superhero comic about villains. So it's your traditional kind of romantic comedy with all the drama and the high stakes, but with the super villain visage to it. Instead of using their superpowers to rob banks or destroy buildings, they just rob celebrities and brag about it on social media. So it's very, very involved in the modern world, even if it is a newly envisioned world with superheroes being daily life.
What's the other one?
Cornah. Cornah is the real life cases of the actual writer's great-grandfather, Martin P. Cornah. So all of the stories I get are newspaper articles, and he comes in contact with people like Eliot Ness, and it's all authentic 1930s Cleveland.
Presumably a lot of the photos you're working from are black and white or sepia. How do you go about interpreting the colours? Is it mostly just by instinct?
Mostly by instinct. I watch a lot of old movies, and I have books about fashion of the time, so I got a nice feel for what the colours would be, but traditionally I draw in black and white for that one. So it's not too much of an issue except on front covers and such.
So is it a very different experience from drawing something that's a much more imaginative like Gamer Girl and Vixen?
Absolutely, but then again, that's how I like it. I like having different styles of things to be able to work towards all the time.
When did you first start becoming an artist? When did you first realise this is what you wanted to do?
I've always been drawing. Like, my earliest memories are when I was drawing in my mother's cookbooks. Like, I can't think of a time where I wasn't drawing, and at the end of primary school, when I started seeing picture books that really inspired me, that was when I realised, hey, wait, I'd like to do that too. And I then bought them years later, and I'm like, yes, this is my inspiration. But I've always been interested in writing and drawing, and then all of a sudden I discovered that comics are a thing that involves writing and drawing, and I was like, well, that's easier then.
So you do the webcomic as well. Is that a completely different experience, or is it very much the same?
I wouldn't say it's completely different, but it is different. It has its own different needs. Like, some of them you need to be much more visually background oriented and have a striking imagery of a real place, because that's the selling point, and some of them, the characters and the emotions that are going through need to shine through, and sometimes you're allowed to be a bit more exaggerated, sometimes you have to be realistic. So I'd say it falls somewhere in between the two, where it's a bit more realistic but still expressive.
So what's your relationship with the writers? Like, how often do they give you notes on no, change this, no, change that, or how much input do you have into the story?
I'm a pretty hands-on person, so we have weekly meetings that turn into catch up with me in the weekday, and I join in on chat sessions, and so far I've been involved in the writing process so much so that I think I'm ready to start writing my own thing. But I always give helpful feedback on the dialogue especially, and pacing and stuff like that, because I consume a lot of television and fiction, read lots. I'm very hands-on, and I get to do a lot of writing stuff as well as the drawing stuff, but the drawing stuff is what I mainly do. That's what I get paid for.
So jumping off that, what are some of your inspirations then? What are the artists that you admire?
Obviously Bruce Timm, because his style has always been something that really struck me and was appealing to me, and Darwin Cook as well. I'm also a really big fan of the older, American artists like Norman Rockwell and Albert Dorn. I really liked how expressive they were and realistic-ish, but I try and keep a huge folder of artists that I like, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, because I find that the more inspiration that you have, the more you can draw from, and the less you seem like you're just copying one person, because you'll say, I don't really like the way that person does faces, but I like the way that person draws faces, and I like the way that person draws fingers, and you just end up learning and making your own kind of thing.
You make your own sort of Frankenstein
You make your own kind of Frankenstein, but at the end of the day, your indelible thumbprint is on it. Like, everyone will always be able to tell that I've drawn something. You know, whether I try and disguise it or not, they'll be like, that looks like you've drawn it.
You do draw thumbprints very well. So let's talk about still drawings that are opposed to comics.
Well, not still drawings.
Well, sometimes they jump from the walls. How do you find drawing like a full image rather than comics? Is that do you find that's a different process mentally? Like, do you approach it differently to a comic panel, for example?
Regrettably, yes. I say regrettably because I would want to draw things a lot more as if they were a comic panel, but I find that if I'm drawing like a big print, then everything has got to be full body and everyone's got to be like perfectly visible. But I would really just rather just say, no, brain, it's time to draw something that is a cool scene, something that would be a cool panel or a splash page, but they end up being just like full body, full body, full body, full body.
Okay, so where can people find you online? Do you have social media, public social media, etc.?
Yeah, I'm not very active, but I try. I read everything, I just don't talk much because I'm always working. But my name, you can Google it, actually. I am surprised by that. You can Google Gemma Moody and get my pages, or I also go by Card Queen. No, it's not there. I just had to check as well. Nope, it's not there, but it is on my business card, so I'm either at Card Queen or Gemma Moody.
So if you want to check out her stuff, it'll be Google. And you know, sometimes if you buy prints, they will jump off the wall, so do be aware of that. And you can check out her comics, Gamer Girl and Vixen and Cooney. They'll be on your websites, presumably. Won't they? Yeah. Thanks very much for talking to us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Cheers.